and welcome to the Sober Freedom Podcast. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Lisa.
And we're here to share our experiences of going alcohol-free and the freedom that it brings, in the hope that it might inspire and support you in your journey. Hello and welcome to the Sober Freedom Podcast with me, Crystal.
And me, Lisa.
And we've got our podcast producer here with us again today, Matt Dean.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm always here.
Well, you're always here, but you're on the sofa
lingering
today.
in the background, but yeah.
You're on the sofa today, and I think we're going to have a little catch-up about how dry January went for you and where you're up to now and how you're feeling and everything like that.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it's nice to be able to participate and as well and talk about the podcast, and I'm really proud of this podcast. I just wanted to say that before we got into it. I'm really proud of like what you're doing and how well you're doing it as well. I think, when we have guests in and they comment on it, and I just wanted to say, like, you're both really good at hosting this podcast, and you've never hosted a podcast before. We didn't do much in the way of prep. When you reached out, Crystal said, I want to do a podcast because this is what I do. And I said, right, okay, come on, let's do it. We just did it. And like, initially you didn't know who you were going to host it with. Mm-hmm. And you was like having to think. And then you were like, I've got somebody I've got in mind, Lisa. I think she'll be really good.
It came to me in Tesco car park.
It was all kind of a bit up in the air and just kind of happened. But I'm really pleased with how it's come across, how it's the content, how good you two are at hosting it. The insights, everything about it, I'm just really proud of it. I'm proud to be able to say that this is something that I'm involved in and that I'm producing, or that we're producing, with Eddie, just like, I feel like we're doing something really positive, and I'm really proud of you both. I think you're doing a great job, so I wanted to say that. So it's a pleasure to be here and back involved in it, and, on the couch in front of the microphone, so to speak. So, yeah, so well done, the pair of you. It's been great.
Good.
And I think I'm a person who likes to plan everything out and know what's going to happen. And I'm not very good at just leaving things, to unfold. But I feel like this is one of those things that has just naturally happened. And I feel like it's happening for a reason. And, the response that we get and just speaking to people, it just makes further sort of deepens my belief that this is happening for a really good reason. And that is to share our stories and to help people. And I know that our voices and our stories are actually doing that. So that's a beautiful thing.
I think to that point, because it is very natural, it's very organic, it's not like we're coming in super polished or anything. It's just, look, this is the subject matter. These are real conversations, regardless of your social background, like anything. This will resonate with almost everybody at some level. Yeah. And it's so it's pretty powerful.
And I think, sometimes I think, will it resonate? But it either will or it won't. But I know that some people are taking something from this, and if it's helping one person, that's brilliant. And if it's helping more,
every audience, better. Every podcast, every song, every TV program has an audience, and sometimes that's a massive audience, and sometimes it's a specific audience. And if you end up with a few hundred committed listeners, and it really gives them and it really impacts their life, and it's really valuable to them, then that's a result. That's a success,
absolutely.
And that could be because you've got, whatever podcast about anything, but your audience is out there, and persistence. I've got my 5 P's of podcasting, so I don't want to bore everyone with it, but the passion, purpose, production, promotion, and persistence. If you can do all those 5 things, and you've brought the passion and you brought the purpose, this is something you're passionate about, something that you want to help other people with. Me and Eddie will look after the production and with the studio and everything, and then we just put it out there, we promote it, and we persist. You keep going, and the more that we do that, and the higher up the scale you are on all 5 of those, I think the more chance you've got of succeeding. And I think, me and Eddie were having this conversation yesterday, that we believe in this podcast. We believe that it has the potential to keep going and reach a bigger audience. And we've had lots of conversations with people about the locality thing. It's nice for people to hear us and our accents, and we're local. We're for local, you know,
Yeah.
like I was going to say, local shop for local people, you know. But like it's, you know, we're not trying to like, this podcast isn't aimed at America. It isn't aimed at Australia. It isn't even aimed at London necessarily. Initially, it's aimed at our immediate community and trying to do something positive there. But obviously, we'd love for that to then that the ripple effect to start reaching more people.
Don't necessarily always hear voices like ours on podcasts either, so yeah,
No.
definitely want to share that.
No, not even on radio in general, unless you're Sarah Cox, you know, but
They have to employ like professional Northern. They have to tick a box, don't they? Apparently, Sarah Cox. They all have to be from Bolton, apparently, and all. But yeah,
and just to say as well, thank you, Matt, for enabling this to happen, because we have totally run with the idea, and you've made us feel really comfortable in the studio, and all the guests that come in as well. You know, there's often a bit of apprehension for anyone coming in here, but that quickly dissipates. It's a brilliant place to record it, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
you can
thank
see straight away it's very natural. Some guests can be a little bit anxious initially, but once they sit down, it's just like having a chat with your mates and a brew. It's, you know, they forget these cameras there, they forget these microphones and a production team. It's just, all right, yeah, because you really get into the subject matter, and then you really get into it, and it's like, oh, right, God, it's been 45 minutes.
It goes so fast.
but that's the thing, though. Like, the trick is, and this is what makes you a really good host. In you're very vulnerable and very authentic in your story, in your own personal storytelling, but you give other people the opportunity to be the same, and you really give them time to talk. And you give them a chance to tell the story at their own pace and in their own time, and that leads them to be authentic then, and that's what makes it good. You're not always trying to chip in and interfere and ask questions, and you give the person the space to talk, and that's really important as a host. It's not always your job to just keep talking. It's to listen and to facilitate to give your guests the opportunity to talk, and that's where the value, I think, to the audience comes in, where people are hearing authentic, original, unique stories.
It's so fascinating because, we listen to people's stories, and obviously you're learning something from that all the time, and just having a different perspective. It's
every time
a gift, really, for us.
Like recently we had a guest on called Claire Dew, and she just put different perspectives on stopping drinking that I had never thought about. And wow, it's exciting. It's like, oh my God, I never thought of it like that. Wow. And that'll be up soon, at some point.
Next week.
So I really encourage you to listen to that. But just her perspectives and just her strategies around kind of like looking after herself while trying to navigate stopping drinking, absolutely fascinating. And if I would have been aware of those behaviours and those like thought processes back when I was trying to stop drinking, it would have been a much easier and a kind of not less painful experience, but I would have been more equipped to deal with the kind of the emotional chaos that comes with it.
Yeah, Claire, I've met Claire before, which led her to be on here, and she was very generous and kind, and she helped me with some of those tools and techniques in the early couple of months when I was really struggling with my anxiety. So I'm just so glad that we got to hear her story as well.
Yeah,
so that'd be brilliant next week.
Yeah, I think like the thing is with what you, the experience of listening and being involved in all these podcasts and listening to people's stories, and it'll become more apparent as we hear more, is that you, like you said, if I'd have had we don't have that foresight, do we? We don't have that opportunity. We just, whatever it is in life, whatever time it is to stop doing something or to change something, it happens because of a chain of events, a series of events, or whatever. You don't really always have time to prepare for it, do you? So it just kind of happens when it happens at that time, and that's very, very different for everybody in it, and it's a different set of circumstances that lead to people making the decision, in this case, to stop drinking or to change their drinking habits. And I think that was one of the things about coming back on, because it's like late February now, and I did dry January, and we started recording this just before Christmas.
Yeah, we did one just on Christmas Eve, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was
or the day
day
before.
before Christmas Eve, and me and Eddie went out to the pub after. And
I ruined your day out, didn't
for
I?
our Christmas. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It took the edge off. We were like, no, we didn't. We didn't. I mean, we didn't go mad, did we? Anyway, Ed, but we had we went for a few pints and a kebab, and then Eddie got the tram back, and it was a really nice evening. And then that was into the whole Christmas period, and then by January, I'd had enough. I'd had enough of drinking. It was just, I felt like absolute crap come the 1st of January. So I knocked it on the head for dry January, and
How was it for you?
it was fine because I've done periods of not drinking before, and to be honest with you, I wasn't craving alcohol or anything, or a pint particularly. There was a couple of times that I think probably the first Friday after work, I was like, I could go for a pint now.
So what did you do at that point? Did you do anything to pass the craving? Or?
No, I just I knew in my head that I wasn't going to anyway. So it was kind of like I allowed the kind of fantasy of it in my head, and I could see this nice creamy pint of Guinness being poured and all that. And I was
trigger warning, everyone.
Yeah. And and it was like, but it passed. And then I'd sort of because I've been involved in this podcast and I've been listening to it, it's been making me think about my relationship with alcohol, which I already was, I think, anyway, towards the end of last year, because I was getting a bit sick of it. Mm-hmm. But what it's done is puts it into context, I think, about because you've said it yourself about, did I have a problem? that whole kind of justification, what Claire will talk about it next week about hers, and, putting it into context to other people. And it's not about that, is it? It's about how are you feeling, and what is if you've got a niggle in the back of your head thinking that for whatever reason you probably should cut down on your drinking, then you probably should cut down on your drinking, shouldn't you? Like that.
It's all relative to the individual, isn't it?
Yeah, but you got to listen to that voice. So come January, I was ready for a reset. And but then listening to things I think I've been and done a lot of the sort of heavy drinking, if you like. You stopped, Crystal, because and you, Lisa, because when you were drinking too much, and it was just leading to these terrible hangovers and behaviours that you didn't want to be doing and having this massive impact on your life. I've not been drinking like that for a long time. So it's
you're a bit more moderate, would you say? Do you think you're quite a controlled drinker?
Yeah, I think I'm quite a controlled drinker, and I don't feel like I have a problem with alcohol in a way that I used to have a problem with alcohol. And like I spoke about when I was on before, it was more of a gateway to other things that I didn't want to be doing. So my whole life is not like that anymore. So I feel like since January, I had my birthday in February, and we went to watch Oldham away, and we had some beers, and then on the actual birthday I went out for a meal. You were supposed to come, but
there's all the run of sickness in the family,
Enzo
so I
was
couldn't
ill,
be
so he
there.
didn't come. So, but I was really mindful of going to the game, and it was an away day, and we'd not done one for ages, and there's quite a few of us going. I was like, I'm not waking up rough in the morning because I've got this meal at 1:30. I'm going for lunch tomorrow, so I'm going to be sensible, and I was. And I woke up in the morning and I was fine, absolutely fine. I was in bed for 11, woke up fine, went for a pizza, had the pizza, then went back to the pub later to meet up with some other friends, but I stayed in the pub, had a few drinks, went home, was absolutely fine, didn't have a hangover in the morning, and then that was it then. I'd kind of done the sort of birthday drinking thing, and it was okay.
So we say you were being quite mindful, though.
But yeah,
of your behaviour,
very mindful, because because what I don't want to do anymore is drink to excess and have hangovers. So if I can't do that, I'll stop. But at the minute, I don't want to be. I don't even want to be doing that kind of thing very often, because I don't feel like it's good for me. I don't feel like that. A weekend of drinking is not good for me. It doesn't carry on into the following week where I feel good physically.
So did it have so although you could still get up and go to the commitments that you'd made, did it have a knock-on effect for the rest of the week?
I don't think so, not massively, no. Because like I say, I didn't drink to excess on any of those, and I moved on, and I felt fine with it. And I probably had an extra week where I didn't do as much physically, or didn't do as much exercise and stuff like that, if truth be told. But it's you know, last night I had a glass of wine with a steak, a small glass of wine, an old-fashioned glass of wine with a steak. One. Yeah, and like, you know, and then put the cork back on the bottle, and then I'll think, like, well, I'll probably use that in a spag bol, and maybe I'll have another glass, you know, like. So my idea of a sober lifestyle is more about, it doesn't have to be completely alcohol-free, because I can have a pint and I can have a glass of wine.
You can enjoy it.
And I can enjoy it, and it's not going to lead to me then 2 weeks later being out getting absolutely sozzled and regretting my life sort of thing. So,
well, tell us if that does happen.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I'm mindful now of things I don't want to do around alcohol. If I go on an away day watching Oldham, I want to go in the car. I'd much rather go with Enzo and Tino and go out as a family and do that and have that time with them than go on the train. It's horrible being on the drunken football. I don't want to do it. So I have a perception of how I want alcohol to be involved in my life occasionally.
Yeah. And that's great because, you know, some people can be more mindful in that way, but obviously other people, me included, we need to accept when that is no longer an option.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I wanted to sort of, you know, when you asked me, said, do you want to come back on and talk about, you know, not everybody who's listening to this podcast is going sober or is sober. It's a mix. It's a variety of people that are listening to it. It's people who still have a relationship with alcohol. Yeah. But as long as you've done the reflection and you've actually been honest with, I think that's the key, is being honest with yourself when you're talking about it, because a lot of people who say they want to stop drinking or say they don't need to stop drinking aren't being honest with themselves.
Well, it's such. I was listening to an interview with one of the guys who created the Dry app, and they'd done lots of research about, you know, people where they are, whether they want to stop drinking, whether they want to control the drinking. It was a tiny percent of people that signed up for that app. Let's say less than 10%. I think it's about 6% of people who actually went to the app to say, I want to stop drinking. And it was a huge percentage of people who go to look for ways to control, moderate, cut down drinking.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So obviously we want to, you know, it is a really broad spectrum, and anyone wanting to reduce that, it's
also a progression, isn't it? Because I think once once you have cut down, once you've managed it, it's not always easy for everyone to just stop.
No, unless it becomes, you know, you have to.
Yeah. But a lot of people start cutting out, and then once it's not a habit anymore. I remember when I stopped drinking for a year, and this is about 7 or 8 years ago. I went to India, and we stopped off in Dubai. So and you've got I can't remember how long the layover was, but it was really the first thing I thought of was, well, this is where we go to the bar. This is where we spend
after a year of not drinking.
It wasn't after it was during that year.
During the year.
But it was like, what am I supposed to do now? Because the habit, the go-to, whether it's going on a plane or a train or go to the bar, pass the time away, get chatting to some stranger, you know, and then you get on the next bit of the flight.
What did you do?
Just sat around. I don't know. Walked up and down. They looked at the shops and all that, I suppose. I don't know.
And how did you feel at the end of the year? Do you feel like you'd broken that habit, or what happened?
My relationship with alcohol was definitely different. But I feel like it's something you have to be consistently mindful of if alcohol is still in your life, because it can slip easily
it's so addictive.
I've had a bad day, or I just, you know, you've got to be really, really mindful, and you've got to be aware of, you know, when Claire on the next episode about what the triggers are, why you drink and things like that, and so I think you've spoke about it. It's such an ingrained thing in our society that we don't give it a second thought. We don't stop to think why we drink and what the purpose is. And
we just tend to think of the result, you know, the quick buzz, the feeling happy. That's why we want to drink. All the after effects are kind of a next day question.
I guess we're not even really in that moment. You're not necessarily thinking, I want a buzz or I want to switch off. It's just what you go to, isn't it? When it's what you know.
Yeah,
and it's what your brain is like subconsciously telling you.
I was going to say, on a subconscious level, it's like, well, that'll make me feel better. It's that immediate kind of pleasure. But
it's often to forget. It's often not necessarily about pleasure. It's often about masking other things that, you know, if you're stressed, if you're angry, if you're upset, you know, you because you're drinking, you forget that you're stressed, you're angry, and you're upset, and you lose yourself in that moment of whatever it is that you're doing when you're drunk, and so. But I think the distinction between drinking alcohol and enjoying it as a drink and getting drunk, there are two distinct different things. Again, it's like, because we've just sat and listened to Claire, it's really tempting to want to keep referring to it. The listeners haven't actually heard it yet, but next week. But you know, like Claire was describing her, and she wasn't drinking to get drunk.
No, she was as more of a taking the edge off.
But it was it became such a regular thing and such a dependent thing that she felt that she had to stop drinking. So. I mean, and that's the same, you know, you've admitted yourself, Chris, you should drink to get drunk. That was the whole point.
But again, it wasn't like it wasn't like I'm going to drink to get drunk, but I also knew I wasn't going to drink just to have a glass of wine, you know, but it wasn't necessarily a conscious thought process.
Now you look back
now I look back, I can realise, I was never going to just have a drink, ever. But, you know, like, and like we say, there's so many different reasons. It might be for fun or it might be a coping mechanism. But I told Lisa actually last week, I'd had a bit of a tough week, like personally. But one thing I'm just so proud of, and I do want to share, is that at not one point did I think alcohol would have made what was going on any better.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't feel the need to reach for alcohol. So that was like a massive personal win. But when I was reflecting, I was like, I know that if I was to drink in this situation, it would not make one thing better. It would only make things worse. You know, it sort of would throw fuel on the fire. It makes it so hard in those sort of emotional moments to think clearly. But not only that, I feel like it sort of delays. I can reflect now, like it delays the processing of whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Because it also adds another layer of processing that needs to be done, because you have to physically you have to process the alcohol. You have to process the mental things that it puts on, the anxiety, all that other stuff. So all you are literally, if you drink it when you've got problems, I'd just added another problem, layer of problems.
Another
problem to it. Yeah. So that was like a personal win, but also
good
one
for
that
you,
I think.
Crystal.
Oh, thank
good
you,
for
mate.
you, because that's honestly that's a huge milestone. That.
Yeah,
that is. That's the
huge milestone when, especially when you recognise that, like, oh God, these are the perfect symptoms for me to just go and get a drink now and justify it.
Yeah, justify it. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. You've got every reason there to justifiably go and get leathered and off you pop, and you didn't, and you recognised also that in that moment, having that drink is not going to make the situation better.
Wouldn't have made one. It would have only made it worse.
Yeah. So there's so much clarity of thought around that decision there, especially when you're coming in hot. You know, to have that clarity of thought. Fair play to you.
Oh, thank
you. Great
thank
work.
You.
Great job.
And that's the thing that's a very personal thing, though. That's like you have to be super like laser focused and you know, solid in your own mindset and your own thinking and where you are in your journey and everything. Because I think in talking about enablers, as society, we enable each other in those situations, don't we? Or, well, you know, you were stressed, or you deserved a drink. You know, like that's the go-to.
There's a reason for everything, isn't there? Like you were stressed, or you're happy, you're sad.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's been a bad day.
I'm unplugging from that now. That's not, you know, I'm taking responsibility for that decision.
Yeah,
that's
real growth.
It is,
real growth.
Thank you. And I hope, I just hope that as well, if anyone else is like going through a hard time, it's just like to say, like, it's just not going to make it better, and you can You can resist and get through it.
Yeah, she's living proof right here on the couch. No, good on you, Crystal.
Thank you. And I think Claire touches on like how to stop in those moments a bit more in the next episode as well, which was really helpful to hear.
I've got a question
really
on that though. Like, so when you find now that, you know, you are going through some difficulty, you know, emotionally or whatever it is, and you don't have, how are you finding it in terms of how you cope with it and like how you process it and how you feel? Is it more difficult at the minute? Is it easier? Or what?
It's hard because you're facing those challenges like head on, and you've not got that thing where you can completely switch off and escape from them, which would have been alcohol.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's hard because you've got to like deal with it. But on the plus side of that is that in my personal experience, is that it's getting dealt with and you're moving through that situation, that process so much faster.
Yeah.
You know, things that if the situation that I'm talking about would have happened and alcohol would have been involved, that could have dragged that whole scenario out for maybe a week or 2 weeks.
Oh, nightmare.
Whereas we've got to deal with it head on. And it might be that you might need to take a time out or a break away from the situation, but you're going to go back to it. So that could be like a walk or just sitting in a room privately to do that. But then you're going to go back to it with a clearer head without alcohol that's then confused you so much more.
100%. You just described it so well, Crystal. So well. You're not going back into you're going back into that situation calmer. You've allowed your chimp, you know, your irrational part of your brain to just exhaust itself, and then you start to think rationally. Yeah. Whereas add alcohol into the mix, you got your chimp there. Whee!
Got a piss chimp.
You know, yeah, you got a piss chimp.
It's the last thing you need.
So it's coming back, and it's like, oh yeah, and do you remember when he did that? And do you remember when she said that? What about when they did that? You know, and it's mounting out of a molehill, and everything just gets exaggerated. Sensitivities are at the peak. It's just a perfect storm of shite.
Yeah, and then you're probably throwing in things that you maybe didn't mean to say, etc. So it was really hard dealing it without that alcohol. But I definitely recognise that we were able to move through it so much faster and more effectively than ever before. I think that takes time, it takes practice, and you know, I've got a lot of work to do on all of these things.
Of course, but look, you're willing to put that work in, and it's not easy. It's not easy having a mirror held up to yourself, and you having to recognise who you are, your flaws, your traits that you're not particularly proud of, is hard work. It's hard work. It's like you're character assassinating yourself. But once you break it all down and you start to understand why you behave or why you react in such a way or why you interpret things in a certain way, it can be so historical. And then you approach dealing with those issues, hopefully start to heal from then, and then you grow again, and it's more armour for you to approach the next situation just with a little bit more clarity, a little bit more presence in that moment, and not be so reactive.
I think like the things you've said there, it's so complex, isn't it? Like how you if you talking about how you interpret things and how you react to things, that's that's a lot anyway. But if you throw alcohol in there, you're interpreting things.
It's huge.
You interpret things anyway that you might have got completely wrong.
Yeah.
Throw booze in there, you've got no clarity at all about what's going on.
Absolutely. I'm just having some therapy at the moment, and as amazing as it is horrible. It literally feels soul destroying because you're telling how you're feeling, how you receive information, how you interpret things, why you react in a certain way, and everything is questioned, and it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But without it, I'm not going to be able to dig deep and understand why I behave in certain ways, why I react to certain triggers, you know. And it's a case of, well, do you want to continue to behave like this or have these thoughts or have these feelings, or do you want to regain that power? and just have some semblance of calm and, you know, clarity of thought and being present in the moment. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
46 or 47, I can't remember now. One of them. But I'm a grown-ass woman. I don't want to be at the mercy of my feelings and emotions. I don't want to be reactive. I don't want to be someone that I don't recognise. And as soon as things like flag up, I'm like, I need to deal with this. And I'm very kind of self-aware like that. But there's not a chance in hell if I was still drinking, I'd have gone through that process. It's too scary. And a nice bottle of beer is just so much easier.
Well, because I guess you're not ever, if you're having the alcohol to sort of take away that, you're not getting to the point where you think, I need to address this situation necessarily.
It's using alcohol. If you're using alcohol as a solution, then you know you're missing what the real answers are, what the real solutions are, and that's, you know, so many things. I'm thinking of, like, you know, soldiers and things like that when they come back from war zones and stuff like that, just drink themselves into oblivion because it's easier than dealing with the, you know, what they've, and that's an extreme version, but we all have our own little wars and our own little battlefronts and our own little memories, and we've got to face them and deal with them. Otherwise, you know, we don't really. I think it's this thing about self-exploration and understanding who you are, and the more you drink, the more often you drink, the less presence you spend, less time you spend in your own presence. I think that's the thing. So the longer you're, you know, I was saying about, I can live a sober life and still drink alcohol, but that means I can drink it occasionally and without getting intoxicated on a regular basis, because I want to spend more time with myself, being me and dealing with things and figuring things out and taking on more responsibility and feeling able to cope with more responsibility and all these things. But I need to be present as me to do that. And I have to understand how I think, how I behave, why I think the way I think, why I behave. And that takes a certain amount of self-reflection that you just don't do
if you're drinking all the time. You don't, because you're drinking or you're hungover, and it saps energy to do any of that extra sort of thought process, doesn't it, I think?
And then you have other things like paranoia and anxiety and all these other things. Because I'm talking now and I'm thinking about my old self. I'm thinking about myself when I was younger. I was thinking about how I existed without really living. Because I was just trying to get through, like, the days and the weeks and the months and the years, feeling like absolute shit.
Yeah.
And not feeling, couldn't really grow. I couldn't. You know, I was just stuck in a loop, you know, and I would never go back to that. Yeah, it was horrible.
You know what I'm finding now, like for the first time ever, like 43, I'm starting to feel like a grown-up. Like I'm actually able to deal, I mean, things are still hard, but I feel like, honestly, it sounds a bit dramatic, but I feel like I'm finally like growing up and getting to grips with like my adult responsibilities.
I'll get there one day.
It's a weird feeling, I don't know.
I think they say life begins at 40.
Well, they do.
And maybe there'll be a reason for that. So where all this wisdom and all these other things.
Yeah, and there's a lot around like a sort of midlife awakening as well. And obviously for women, like we've said before, there's a lot of hormonal shifts, you know, from 40 onwards usually, that alcohol just does not work with. You know, perimenopause and alcohol is just not a good mix. But also it is a great opportunity in your midlife to sort of rediscover and start a new chapter.
We don't, as men as well, we don't like, you know, there's more women. I mean, you're both women, and like you have more women on the podcast, and there is all those things. But from a male point of view as well, like, you know, we get older, we start producing less testosterone. So I think our, you know, desire to show off and prove ourselves amongst, you know, or to prospective mates or to with our mates becomes less, and then as a result, so that, you know, we do mellow, generally speaking. But if by my age you've got a dependency on alcohol or an addiction to alcohol, then even though that you have mellowed, you've got a problem with alcohol. So there are a lot of people that I see in and around my life who it's worked both ways. There's people that have started using it less, and then there's the people that are really
in the other way.
Using a lot more.
And alcohol, obviously, it does impact all of the hormonal balance as well. Even small amounts. So have you been, obviously you've been more mindful about your drinking or anything and everything. Have you been doing anything else instead? Like, have you found any other interests during that time where you've been more mindful?
I don't need any other. I've got so much to do.
Yeah.
Like I sing, and I've got music, and I've got the studio and the podcasting, and I've got loads of work to do, and I've got family and friends, and I don't need it. I'm fine. I mean, one of the things that is a great way to put you off drink is to spend lots of time in the company of people who've had too much to drink, and I do that all the time at the weekends, because I perform to rooms full of pissed up people, and I mean that's a really good way of keeping you on the straight and narrow. Being in a room full of pissed up people when you're stone cold sober, it kind of like, they're going to suffer in the morning, and thank God I'm not making a show of myself like that.
Yeah, I think that's fine if you're quite strong and you're not drinking, but if you were like struggling to not drink, being around a load of pissed up people may not be the best idea initially.
I mean, they're just annoying, generally speaking. They just, when they're coming up to you, packing up, oh, mate, that was brilliant, mate. And it's nice to get compliments and stuff, but then they're coming up, they're trying to sing down your microphone, and you sort of piss off, and, and all that. But it's fun. I mean, you're there to entertain them, and they're having a great night and stuff like that, but you're not usually in. And like you guys now are probably, Lisa, you say you used to go out a lot and not drink and see people, but most of us who drink and aren't in an environment like that where people are leathered and we're sober, because we've leathered. Kept up, or we're drunk enough for it not to be an issue.
Oh, I could always be the most drunk person in the room.
Yeah, and so being in that environment on a regular basis does, make it easier to sort of like, I'm all right. I'm all right with drinking my pints of water and being in this environment and enjoying it, because I really love entertaining, getting people going, getting people singing along, and being, the centre of attention and all that. And it's because I love singing, I really enjoy it. So I'm in that environment. It's a bit like a night out, and I get paid to be there rather than spending all my money on beer and pissing it up the wall. So that's a much better alternative for me nowadays, to be out there and be the entertainment in a pub or a club or something, and then let everybody else do all that.
Yeah. Sounds good, and obviously you're really keeping yourself busy. And I'm just kind of thinking while you're talking, like if someone was thinking about they want to go alcohol free, it sounds like a good way of starting that process is to have some, like going back to your birthday commitments, it's like having some really positive plans in place that you're going to look forward to, that you don't want to ruin with a hangover. And
keep yourself busy. I mean, because the other thing about alcohol turns you into a slob, doesn't it? Especially when you've got hangovers and stuff. And it depends, everyone handles it differently. I know people who will go out, get drunk, get up the next morning, go out
a mountain.
And I've never been able to do that. I mean, I'll have to be a complete write-off for me. So, and that's another one of the reasons for why I don't want to be getting drunk and getting myself into those situations, because I don't want to waste any more days. I've wasted enough time in bed and suffering with hangover. I don't...
In a heavy drink, well, there's like these stats that you hear, like it's literally years of lives that can be lost to hangovers. Yeah. Even like an average drinker, it could be like 5 years.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
And as you get a bit older, you're like, well, you realise, you're on a clock here, aren't you? It's finite, you know what I mean? So don't want to waste too much more of it. So, but I think I would encourage people to go alcohol free for a period of time, because particularly if they've never done it, because I think you have to reassess your relationship with it. It helps you reassess your relationship with alcohol. Put yourself in a position where you are experiencing a lot of the things that you spoke that we talk about on this podcast on an ongoing basis, and be introspective, because it is a really good experience.
I think for me, until I was doing it, I couldn't have ever imagined like the opportunities and the positive experiences not drinking would bring into my life. I couldn't imagine it. Obviously, I was a little bit pushed into the decision, although I had always sort of admired people who didn't drink. But now I've done it for 9 months. There's no way I would ever go back. Like, I've experienced so many more opportunities and just feeling so much better.
Yeah,
Life's really predictable when you're drinking.
Yeah.
You know, when you're doing that kind of stuff, you know, like you've been there. You're not going to get anything new from that. Whereas if you stop, you don't know what the potential opportunities are. You don't know the difference it's going to make to you.
It does hold you back.
You've got by stopping it. It's a different chapter.
It gives you a completely different perspective. I think if any, I would always say like try it for as long as you can try it.
It'd be really nice to hear from people through the podcast, social media, of people who. I mean, I had a message from one of my mates who said, "Not had a drink for 6 weeks. I'm listening to the podcast. I'm really enjoying it, and it's really helping." And,
Brilliant.
So it'd be nice to hear from people who maybe started off listening to this podcast as a drinker. Are you stopping? Has the podcast inspired you? How are you feeling? Get in touch. Give us questions. Give us some. We want to go on your journey with you as well as you coming on your YouTube's journey.
And I think another thing I want to get across as well is like, from my perspective anyway. I don't want to speak for you, Crystal, but I am not like hating on drinking and alcohol or people who like choose to drink. It's more about one, highlighting the potential problems that alcohol can bring, then the potential health benefits from it and the lifestyle benefits from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wanting to create awareness around that. Get rid of the shame about it. If you have an issue, speak up, seek help. If you're curious about stopping, try it. See if it enhances your life, and then maybe like yourself, Matt, you can go for a period, and then moderate more as you like introduce yourself back into drinking. Or if you think, no, do you know what? I'm going to go completely sober. Fair play too. There's no kind of negative aspect from this podcast, I feel, upon drinking. It's just bringing awareness and starting a conversation.
Yeah,
I think there's
definitely.
an important word. I think the important word is control. For me, it's control. Are you in control of yourself? Are you in control of your mind, of your body? We create an illusion in this society that we are in control. A lot of things are out of our control. There's only a finite number of things that we can control, but if alcohol is something that you can't control, it's something that you probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And
I do think that's really tricky though, because I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, yeah, I can."
But that's about about how honest and
the
accountable they're being with themselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here as someone who I feel like I've done enough work over the last 10 years and introspection and I have enough of an understanding to sit here and say I'm in control.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like someone who's in control.
Only that individual can answer that for
exactly.
themselves.
Exactly.
But I think this just provides a platform for people to hear different perspectives, get some support, get some, just hear different stories and recognise parts of different stories that resonate with them. And that for me is the beauty of this.
Yeah.
This
I mean, you
podcast.
said that right early on about if you could control it, you'd probably still be drinking. And so you've not been bringing judgment into it at all. I think that's
not
really,
at all.
really important.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's an important thing that comes across on the podcast anyway, is that it's not preaching. It's not, look at us, we don't drink, we're better than you, because, it's not that, is it? It's accepting to everybody, and we're all on a journey, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed coming back on. Thanks for having me. Like I said before, you're doing a fantastic job. It's brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for listening again. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And if you've got any questions about any of the guests that we've had on in the past, or anybody who you'd like to hear on in the future, any professionals or anybody from a particular walk of life, please leave us a comment and we will try our best to facilitate that. Thanks very much.
The Sober Freedom podcast is hosted by Crystal Downsey and Lisa McGuinness. To leave comments, ask questions and interact with the show, follow @sober.freedom on Instagram. Please also subscribe, rate and leave comments wherever you listen to help us reach more people. The show is recorded at QPod Studios in Oldham and produced by me, Matt Dean, with video production from Eddie Corteen for QPod Productions. For more information, please visit kupod.co.uk.